Hello, this is Vivian in South Carolina. A lovely 70-degree day in mid-February. Can you believe it? Trees are starting to bloom, leaves are coming out. We're still going to get another frost, but this is about love, a word that is overused and not used properly in the right context. And it's not really our fault. We don't really have the proper words in the English language to convey all the different types of love. Now, because a lot of it is just understood. You know when I say I love chocolate, it's not the same as I love my husband. And neither one is the same as I love my kids. And then still not the same as when I say I love my grandkids. If you got grandkids, you know there's a difference. And if you go to Merriam-Webster, their website, and look up love, there's 8 different categories that you can put, that they do the definitions of. And the first one is, let me read it to you. The strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal reasons, like maternal love for a child. A second part of that first definition is attraction based on sexual desire, affection, or tenderness felt by lovers. So, it just goes on, and just under the first one, and this isn't the first 2 of the 8. This is just under still the first one. The third one, affection based on admiration, benevolence, or common interests. Love, love for old schoolmates. And a second part of that first one is an assurance of affection. Give someone your love. You're sending your love. Love, so it's, and you sign off. Now, the second definition is a warm attachment. The third one is the object of attachment. Your love for something. The fourth one is an unconditional, unselfish love. And the second part of that fourth one is a person's adoration of God. The fifth one is a god, such as Cupid or Eros. Number 6, an amorous episode, like a love affair. 7 is sexual embrace or copulation. We say making love. If you look at the old black and white movies, when they're talking about making love, they're not talking about sex. What they're talking about is someone trying to get someone to fall in love with them, seducing them basically. Or so-and-so was making love to her on the front porch wasn't mean they were copulating on the front porch. He was wooing her. Language changes quickly, just from that time period from 60 to 100 years ago to now. That making love has a totally different meaning. Number 8 is a score of 0, as in tennis. Yeah. So, you have that. And, you got to wonder, what's the big deal? Why is, we all know when I say I love ice cream or chocolate, and I don't really like chocolate ice cream, which is weird, but I don't mean the same as when I say I love my husband. And, y'all understand the difference there. But what's so important about love? Now, in the Bible, and I'm using the Bible because it's got a lot of the examples, and I think most everyone has read or know of the Bible, whereas if I picked out another book, fiction or nonfiction, you may or may not have read it or know of it. And even those that don't like the Bible, there's some teachings in there we can all benefit from. And I think this is one of the most important ones, because in John chapter 13, verse 35, it says, "By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if you have love one to another." Okay? Now, I understand. I prefer the King James. There's another video on that further back. But when I'm quoting the King James, you know that I'm quoting scripture. I'm not just reading or paraphrasing. And I want to point out that in the Greek language, there are 6 words that we would translate now in the English to love. And in the Bible, 4 of those words are used. So I'll stick to them. The first one is agape. which is a selfless love, unconditional love. The agape love is what the Bible refers to God in when it talks about it. It's just unconditional. Phileo, or phileo, depending on the conjugation, the verb usage, and all that. But that's the city of Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, and that's what it's like. It's an affection. It's a good thing. Storge, which is family. It's when you say you love your father, you love your mother, you love your siblings. That's that kind of love. That's what is it? And eros, which is not actually technically in the Bible as eros, where you're going to find the word translated from eros to love, but there is definitely eros in the Bible. There's lust. And the reason why this is important is in John 21, so you go further in the book of John, you come to these verses. This is after Jesus has been crucified. And he comes back, and it says, so, verse 15 of chapter 21, so when they had dined, Jesus saith to, please forgive me, a lot of times I change in my mind from saith to says or says, and I'm trying to read it like it's written, so you know that I'm not paraphrasing here. So sometimes I stumble on that, so let me get back. So when they had dined, Jesus saith to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord. This is Peter. Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. Verse 16. He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonah, lovest thou me? He said unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. And he said unto him, Feed my sheep. Verse 17. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonah, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things, thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus said unto him, Feed my sheep. Now, okay, whoop-de-doo. Jesus asked Simon 3 times, Do you love me? And if you love me, feed my lambs, feed my sheep. But that gets lost in translation because Jesus asked the first 2 times, Peter, do you love me unconditionally? All 3 times Peter says, I phileo you, I dearly love you, I love you like a brother. All 3 times. The third time Jesus asked him, do you phileo me? Do you love me? Do you dearly love me? Do you love me like a brother? And that's what grieved Peter, because the third time Jesus didn't ask him, do you love me unconditionally? Now Peter, with all his faults, his brashness and mistakes that he's done, because he goes from saying the very best thing to putting his foot knee deep into his mouth, and so many of the stories, Jesus was asking him, do you love me unconditionally? And Peter honestly answered, I love you like a brother. He didn't say, yes, I love you unconditionally, not once. And these 3 times, Peter had just been humbled. Remember, not too long ago, Peter denied Christ. Was it 2 or 3 times before the cock crowed? He denied him, and he had swore he wouldn't do that, and he did. So he's been very humbled. He's gone back to fishing. Left the ministry basically. Decided all is lost. He's going through a lot of stuff, just like we do from time to time. But here, Jesus asked him directly twice, do you love me unconditionally? And then the third time, do you love me like a brother? In either case, he says, feed my sheep. So going back to the original language can very much change the story that, you have made. If you're walking with Christ or you've known the Bible, you used to go to church, you used to read it. When you go back and use the concordance, or I like to use eSword, website www.e-sword.net. Great ministry there. I use that on my computer, And it's a lot easier and faster than dragging out that huge concordance. That's a work. Maybe I need the workout, but it's faster for me to look that up, and it will tell me the original Greek or Hebrew or whatever language the book was written in, and the meaning, and even how some of the Hebrew words and Greek words are related or comes from this other word. It's really interesting, and a lot of rabbit trails can come from that, but it's also another layer of the story, because if you just read this in the English, it's like, oh, it's sad that Jesus had to ask him 3 times, because it's almost like he didn't believe Peter. But Peter was answering honestly, and as Peter says in the end, you know all things, Lord. You know that I love you, and phileo you, that I love you dearly, I love you like a brother. So having the original language is helpful in understanding a lot of things. And when John writes that by this all men shall know you, that you are my disciples, if you have love one to another. And understanding that love, that's agape again, that love there. It's not conditional, it's only, I only love you if we're related somehow, or you're my neighbor, then I can love you. Jesus answers that. Who's my neighbor, with the story of the Samaritan, the Good Samaritan. And just out of interest, just before I did this, I looked up the 6 Greek words that are used for love, and one of them is pragma. I guess we can guess what that, the word pragmatism, pragmatic, comes from long-standing love, which refers to a long-married couple. And we had our 25th anniversary last year, wasn't it? Yes. I had to stop and think again. So much has been happening, and a lot of my problems, a lot of things I'm dealing with or having to deal with, comes back to my attitude. My husband is a very good man, and I thought you might enjoy a different view. He's gone through a lot in the last few months. He's lost his older brother, and his father just recently passed away. And it really brought to the forefront with both deaths. His brother died right before Thanksgiving, and his father died last week, a week ago. In fact, we were just notified that his father was put into hospice and was given 2 weeks. And my husband started to make arrangements to go see him. And the following morning, we get a phone call that his father passed away. So we knew his health has been failing, but we've been around so many elderly people who has gone on decades after their health had failed them. So we just kind of, we don't go into a panic every time we hear someone sick. And we're taking care of my mother now, and she no longer has the option of going home to live independently. Even if she builds up the strength again, I just don't think that's going to be a wise idea for her. And she's physically not capable, and so we are taking care of my mother. My husband's mother, she's got some stuff going on with her, but so far she's able to take care of herself. But she's not too far from us, so if we need to, we can go over there and help her. And all the stuff happened with my husband's family, and then there's some stuff going on with our finances and other family things that aren't good. And so much is just not in our control. We have no control over anyone else's health. We hardly have control over our own health. And I just pray, God, what am I supposed to do? And a lot of it is just be loving. I am not a loving person. I am finding that out. The more I try to be, I can just say, Lord, just help me to be a kind person, which is under love, but not all of it. If you look up 1 Corinthians chapter 13, where it says, love is. And if you put your name in that spot, replace love with your name in that chapter, and say, Vivian is patient. No, she's not. Vivian is long-suffering. She doesn't want to be. It is so humbling to know how far I am from the target that's supposed to show that I'm a disciple of who I say I'm a disciple of. I mean, I do not like hypocrisy, especially when I see it in myself. And this is the key to knowing who Jesus' disciples are. So you have to not only know what love is in order to distinguish who are the real disciples and who are wannabes, because there's a lot of wannabes that are honest and genuine in wanting to be like I am. I mean, I put myself in the wannabe category because I know I'm not there. And then there's some that are just deluded. They are not believers. They go to church for social reasons, especially down here in the South. It's almost a given. People go to church. It's a matter of where do they go and do they really live it? Do they believe it? A lot of them are raised in the church. And unfortunately, God has no grandparents. Just because your parents were strong believers doesn't mean that you are automatically a believer. It's your faith that you have to work on and what you believe and you don't believe. But that's another subject. And looking up on Galatians chapter 5, verse 22 and 23, it says the fruit of the Spirit is love. And then it says joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such thing there is no law. It says the fruit of the Spirit is love. And then it lists a whole bunch of stuff. It's not fruits of the Spirit. It's fruit, singular. The verb is singular. The comma after love shouldn't be a comma. It should be a semicolon or colon or period. Or it's the fruit of the Spirit is love. And I'm not seeing a lot of that lately. I need to get off of Facebook because it's just ugliness. There's nothing of beauty to edify anyone. I post food stuff. I post humor stuff, and I'm seeing a lot of political things, a lot of anti-Muslim things, a lot of anti-Semitic stuff, a lot of anti-Christian things, and it just breaks my heart to see any of that. You know, I don't have to agree with a denomination, and to show my disagreement, I'm going to bash. You know, just pick a denomination. I don't care. I believe that every denomination that believes in the Bible, that reads the Bible, has God. It's not for me to figure out if they've got it right. You know, around here you get asked what denomination, because you know most people are churched, so they want to know what denomination you go to. And there's a strong Baptist, Southern Baptist thing down here, and there's a lot of there's always a First Baptist in every town you go to, and I've not seen a Second Baptist yet. I've always wondered about that. They're always something Baptist, but there's never a Second Baptist. But there's always a First Baptist in pretty much every little town and city here in the South. But I'm not picking on Baptists. I used to go to one as a child. They have many of them have a wonderful bus ministry that picks up kids and takes them and teaches them. That's how I got my first Bible, was through a bus ministry I went to and going to church and learned the Ten Commandments and got a Bible from that. That was my first and only Bible for a couple of decades. So I'm not knocking the Baptists, but you get asked, what denomination, and if something gets more important than for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. If anything is more important, if you get in a debate about dunking or a splash, or how are you baptized, or how were you baptized, how were you those aren't as important as who are you really worshiping. And are you showing love? That's not showing, to me, that's not showing love, that I'm going to sit there and go, well, I got fully immersed, so I'm better than you that just got a little splash on your head. That's ridiculous, First things are first. When Jesus was asked to condense all of the laws. You know, he put it down very simply. Love your God with all your heart and all your might. And second, love your neighbor as yourself. Simple, simple. How hard is that? And we're having to deal with family. And this keeps coming back going, you know, some of my family's saved, some aren't. Some were church, but I didn't see the fruit, any of this stuff coming out of them or even them struggling with this. They were the same people I've known. And sometimes I know that's not correct because I know that my siblings can't always see the changes I think I've gone through and become a better person, hopefully, for. So maybe I'm not seeing it in others because I've just been too close to them and not seeing other things. But I just felt it was really important to bring this topic out in the front. And that whole, in school, you know, sometimes we learn opposites. You know, you got black, you got white. Those are opposites. You've got hot, you got cold. Those are opposites. And when we learned love, we said hate. Hate is the opposite of love. And I'm now over 50 years old. And there have been times I've hated those I loved. You know? And sometimes I've been through a divorce. It wasn't ugly at first. It became ugly later. After the divorce, I thought we had a very amicable divorce at first, but then afterwards, it just became a very weird, sick thing, and I despised my ex-husband because him abandoning me, I understood. Him abandoning our daughter, I had a really hard time forgiving him for that. That he had no contact with her for years. That he just basically went on and lived his life the way he wanted and had nothing to do with her. And that was something, I can't control that. If I could have changed it, I would have, but I couldn't. And fortunately, my husband stepped in and he adopted my daughter and made her his, and he did. He's been a wonderful father, and we had a son together, wonderful son. My life is really good, and having my ex-husband come back in after my daughter became 18, I couldn't control that. A lot of things happened, and then God just kept dealing with me on being loving, and that's been going on for 20 years, the focus on just being loving. And still to this day, I can tell you honestly, I'm not a loving person, but I think most of the time I'm a kind person. I try to err on the side of kindness. You know, what's the kindest thing I can do here? What can I do to be helpful? What can I do to encourage? What can I do? And I don't, maybe to other people looking, they may say that's love, and other people say, no, it's not. It is debatable, and I can say safely, it is definitely kind. But opposite of love is not hate. And when I got older, I learned that indifference, I thought for a time that indifference was the opposite of love because you don't really care. But the opposite of indifference is obsession, which some people do confuse as love. But that is not it either. When you're obsessed with somebody, it is not about that person. It's about you. It's about your ego. It's about what you want, not that person. The opposite of love, and I don't think this is going to change. I think this is going to be to the day I die, is selfishness. If you love somebody, what is in their best interest is more important to you than what you want. So if your husband wants to sit on the couch and watch a football game when you would rather he go in the garage and fix something that you've been needing fixed, you love him. I mean, it goes both ways. Don't get me wrong. I'll come back to that. My husband works hard. He's the breadwinner. I'm the homemaker. That was never my intention. I always thought I'd be working. But thankfully, because the lifestyle that we live, I can stay home. We don't need my income. And And I'm able to take care of my mother. I was able to take care of the grandkids when they were younger. I was able to take care of other family members when they had needs and issues happening. I was able to go and be there for them and, just help, be physically present, which is a big blessing, I hope, for them. And it was for me to be in this situation. And I guard my husband's time. I have a list so long of projects that he could probably snap out and do so much better than me, but I try to do those projects myself in a way that I can do it, so I'm not having to pull him in. Because when if he's got, let's say he was going to do something in the garage, fix something or another, and a friend calls up and wants to go kayaking, I'm pushing him out the door. Go kayaking, dust those things off and go. A friend wants to go on a little road trip. I have to push him out, because a lot of times he'll feel guilty. It's like, no, don't. He works hard, and especially this year things have gotten really tough, and he's working longer hours. And fortunately, he works from home, but still, it's very stressful. I hear the conference calls. I hear what he's going through. I hear what it's just craziness. And he's a diligent man. He's a good man. And a lot of times I've heard him do it. I've seen him do it. Or he'll just say, let's just put the blame on me. Let's fix this problem. It's my fault. And people are just astounded on the conference calls. They're like, and they're flabbergasted because they know it wasn't his fault. But he's like, he doesn't want to waste time pointing fingers. He wants to just fix the problem. And he's gotten such a good reputation that he was hoping that they would offer him early retirement and get him off. They don't want to let him go. I was like, honey, you've become too valuable. But he works very hard, and it's my job as the homemaker to do what's in the best interest of my husband. And for him to go out and have a good time and relax, I think is the most important thing. My son even noticed it. He said, yeah, I noticed you do guard his time. I even shield him from his own family, because I know how some of them stress him out. So I try to shield certain things, but, he's still the man of the house. I don't hide it from him, but I wait for him to, finish having a good time and get back home or finish doing whatever he's enjoying doing at that moment before I interrupt it with, we got a phone call from so-and-so and they kind of need you to do such and such. That to me is love, okay, for my husband. He does it for me too. There was a time where I was having difficulty. I was saying yes to everybody that needed something from me, needed some help, needed something. And I had to go through him. That's what we came up with. I said, I need to talk to my husband first before I can say yes or no. And Tim would just say no. I'd go back and say, no, Tim said, I got this other stuff going on. I can't do it. And, because he would bring me up on that. You hadn't finished this. You got to do that. So we guard each other. And we love each other. If I have to hire somebody, I talk to my husband and say, look, we need to get this done. I don't want you to do it. You're too busy with this other stuff. And we do that. That's love. And how I hold him in regard, I can sit here and get so frustrated with all the things that hadn't gotten done. Like, okay, here's one. Our refrigerator didn't fit in the slot that the refrigerator is supposed to go into in the kitchen, so it's kind of in the next room. But it's been there for over a year, and we don't have an ice maker. And his mother made the comment about that why hadn't you hooked up Vivian's ice maker? And I'm just like, oh my God, what did you just do? You just threw me under the bus. I said, I use that as an example because I don't use ice, by the way. I rarely use ice. Unless I'm blanching something, I don't use ice. I don't put it in my drinks. I don't use ice. And I got ice cube trays that I can do if I wanted to. I don't want to. But his own mother did that to me on Valentine's Day. And I'm looking at her going, are you serious? And here's my wonderful husband who had just made a wonderful meal. He cooked pretty much everything. I just helped him with the salad dressing and some of the sides for the loaded potatoes. But he cooked the steak, he cooked the potatoes, he cooked the corn, he made the salad. He did all the stuff. And I'm just going, I had to apologize to him later going, honey, that's okay. You know how I feel about ice. It'd be nice to have the ice maker because we have people that come over that want to use the ice sometimes. But really, we're not living for them. We're living for us. And installing the ice maker over there would mean him crawling underneath the house, and it's not something he looks forward to and will want to do, and I don't care about it. But that's the kind of stuff, if I focus on these little piddling things, they do go from molehills to mountains. And it's not good for him, it's not good for me, it's not good for our marriage. I focus on what a diligent man he is. What a encouraging. He's never complained about my family. I mean, yeah, he knows their faults. He knows that, so-and-so's got this problem, so-and-so's got this other problem, and so on. He knows those things. But when they need my help, or they need us, or they want, we're right there. And he loves spending time with my family, which is great. My family is really weird, too, so it takes a special person. And it's, it changes, that feelings are fickle at the best of times. And it becomes very easy to go, well, why didn't he take, why couldn't he buy me a gift for Valentine's? Why couldn't he have just got me a little trinket? Instead, he cooked dinner for me, my mother, his mother, and our son. The 5 of us had a wonderful time together. That wasn't romantic. I think it's very romantic. I think it was very good. He took some bereavement days. Getting over the shock of the death of his father. Dealing with, I wish I'd spent more time with him. I should have called him. All these shoulda, woulda, couldas. And he decided on Valentine's Day to cook the meal and do all that. What a wonderful guy, Oh, he got off cheaply, yeah. But Valentine's is not a big day for us. He's romantic most of the year. We do things, we go for walks, we're both frugal, so I don't want him spending money on cut flowers. That would that irritates me. I had to make him stop doing that early in our marriage. I don't want roses that dry and die that he spent $30-40 on. That's ridiculous. Just because it was Valentine's Day. So, I'd rather he buy me jewelry. But I hadn't been really wearing my jewelry, so that would not make sense. Not even to me. So anyway, love is about the other person. I love my husband dearly. I treat him like a king. If I want to be treated like a queen, he's got to be treated like a king. He is not, as Dr. Laura puts, one of the 3 A's. In her book of Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands. I highly recommend that to all of you women out there. Read it. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. You will see yourself in that book, and you will see your husband. And if he's not one of the 3 A's, you do as that book instructed. In the foreword of her book, she tells you about the 3 A's: the addicts, the abusers, and the adulterers. Those 3 need to get help. And if they're not getting help from themselves, I'm not talking marriage counseling, they need to get help for those problems. And if they're not going to kick their addiction, if they're not going to give up cheating on you, if they're not going to quit beating on you on their own, you need to leave. Because there's just no good ending for that. But otherwise, that book is great. I reread it every 2 or 3 years. I keep having to buy a copy because I lend out my copies and don't get them back, which is fine. I can live with that if it saves the marriage. But I read that book, and remind myself that how much of a good man my husband really is. I was married to all 3 of those A's fit my first husband to some degree or another. And I really did, I can say to the best of my abilities at that point in my life, I tried to make that marriage work even after I knew I had no love and no respect for him. We were probably to the point of roommates more than husband and wife. In fact, even long before that, we would go out. We went to school together, went to a technical college together, and had some of the same classes, and the classmates did not know we were married. They knew we were related, we had the same last name, but they didn't know we were husband and wife. In fact, I had 2 guys ask me out in front of him because they had no clue that they thought we were cousins. So definitely not a good relationship. So I know what a bad relationship is. And being in this one, the problems we had, I can almost go back and go, yeah, he was doing some things wrong, but I blew it way out of proportion at those points in our marriage. And if I had known what love was, what it really was, and this whole pragma, understanding that there is some pragmatism that goes with a long-term relationship, because we are very different people, and there's clashes because of our personality types, because I want to go, I want to visit, I want to have people over. He would be happy at this point just crashing after work. He's so tired. I couldn't do that to him. And just understanding, and then getting my social needs with my girlfriends, going out with my friends, meeting them for lunch, going to the farmer's market. When I say shopping, I'm not talking like going to the mall and buying clothes. We normally go and do something very economical, because none of us are in a position to just blow money. So if you have a different definition, understanding of love, that don't fit into these 6 categories that is in the Greek language, the eros, which is the sexual passion or lust, phileo, which is like a deep friendship, brotherly, ludus, which is not in the Bible, but it's kind of it can call anywhere from infatuation or affection between, small children being friends. That's kind of more of that type of affection. Agape, which is the selfless, unconditional love. Pragma, which is the long-standing love of like long married couples. And the last one, yeah, I need to get into that, because the philatika, I think I'm saying that right, or philatika, is the love of self. Now, the unhealthy form is narcissism. You are overinflated. But a healthy one is just you like who you are. You're the word pride doesn't always take the right connotations in today's language. You are aware of yourself, warts and all, and you're okay with yourself. You're good. You know your value. You know that you intrinsically have worth. You feel secure in who you are. It doesn't mean you're happy with where you're at. I mean, I think everyone should have a little form of, I can improve on this area. I can be healthier. I want to read this book. I want to study this topic. Something, but overall, you're happy with who you are. So those are the 6 forms of love in the Greek, and then there's also the one that's the 4 in the Bible, which is the agape, phileo, and storge. I'm probably butchering some of these words, but I think if you look them up, you'll know which ones I'm referring to, which is the family, the love you have for your parents and your siblings and your children, that kind of love. And I say the opposite of love is selfishness. Because if you love somebody, there is no self. It's about the other person. And when I treat my husband that way, because he's not one of those 3 A's, he reciprocates in kind. Without me badgering him, he wants, a lot of women complain that their husbands don't want to spend time with them. Well, if you're nagging them or wanting to pull them into something they don't want to do, then can you blame him for not wanting to spend time with you? I mean, seriously. You got to sometimes pretend you're still dating. If you were dating and he wanted to go to a gun show and you have no interest in guns, you went. Or a boat show. Thank God my husband's not into boats. That would be a tough one for me. But that's what, you know, that's what it would take. You know, if my husband got interested in boats, I'd be there with him. Even if I'm bored, you know, I will learn to occupy my mind. I will meet, I will learn. So when he's talking about stuff, you know, I'm not glazed over. To me, that's love. And it's reciprocated. You know, he had no interest in watching Pride and Prejudice with me. Oh my God, that's the ultimate chick flick. He was like, but he was going to do that for me. It was my birthday weekend or something, and he just wanted to make me happy, and he knew you know, I would enjoy that. So, and he got into it. Don't get me wrong, he's manly, but the underlying stories and the way that people, you know, the whole Bennett girls and Mr. Darcy and all that stuff and all the things that happened and all the ways people were treating each other and what was proper in that society and what's proper today, and raising a daughter, we were just, you know, we were like, this is what we want you to get a Mr. Darcy. And I think our son-in-law has become a Mr. Darcy. He may not have been at the beginning. And so, you know, this is what a good man should look like, and how much he helped and what he did. And the story is really good. There's a lot of family tensions, the blame of Mr. Bennett and how he let his younger daughters get wild and what happened in that culture. I mean, there's a lot in there. And so it's not just one-sided. This goes both ways. When I treat my husband like a king, I get treated like a queen. And that snowball is a good one. So I just want to encourage everyone, learn what love is, so you know who the disciples, the true followers of Jesus Christ are, what they would look like. It doesn't mean we go for everything. I have friends that are living the homosexual lifestyle. I have friends that are having addictions. The ones I have a hard time with are the ones that are cheating on their spouses. Leave. Divorce. Don't stay in that. If you're cheating, it's just wrong on so many levels, because you're dishonoring not just your spouse, but everyone that's involved in your life. It's just not a personal thing, you know. When everyone finds out, it just becomes horrible. So if you have another definition that I don't know of, the Greeks don't say anything about love of chocolate. I don't know what word they would use for that kind. Maybe it's the ludus. But if you have another definition, I'd like to know it. If you have another opposite, a better opposite for love than selfishness, let me know. Because I think all these forms of love, if it's selfish, if you're being selfish, you're not going to. And I've noticed that selfish people also are one of the hardest to love. When they're selfish, you know, it's like, you don't need my love. Go find something else. That's my attitude with people that I've found to be selfish. Generous people, and I'm not talking with money and stuff, just with their time, with themselves, the people that put themselves out there for others, they are the easiest to love. You know, think about that. So, before I start rambling on even more, tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.